Hello, everyone. It is Thursday the 28th, and it is 1:15 p.m. Coming to you at a special time today to accommodate a special lady. Cathy Rudolph is joining us today, and she is an author. She wrote the book Lynde A Biography. So she had a little bit of time today to share with us, so we wanted to bring her on and catch up with her, see what she's got going on. So, hi, Cathy.
Hi, Jamie. How are you?
I am well, and you?
I'm doing well. And for those who know Paul Lynde,
Lynde, I knew that.
that's okay. And it's Cathy Fitzgibbon Rudolph for everyone who knows me by my maiden name, which is when I met Paul, to Cathy Fitzgibbon Rudolph. Just let you know so the audience knows. A lot of them know me by my maiden name, Fitzgibbon. So talk to me. What do you think of the book so far?
It's interesting. Obviously I mispronounced his name, so I'm not terribly familiar, with too much of his story and his stuff, which is good because why the hell would I want to read a book about something I already know about?
And people have always mispronounced Paul's last name. That was a pet peeve with him. He always said, no one remembers my last name or how to say it. They call me Lynn or everybody. Still this day, I have people, when they Google his name, they put Paul, Lynn. It's Lynde. He had this his whole career. So the fact that you said it one way, he's used to that. And he just that was the guy with the funny voice, Paul Lynde, a legend through the 70s, early 60s. Everybody knows him from Bewitched as the favorite Uncle Arthur, Munsters F Troop. He did the Paul Lynde Show, which was short-lived. They are now running it on Antenna TV, which is amazing because so many people get it now. He was ahead of his time. And a lot of people didn't think the show was that entertaining. I have more people telling me now that they really love it and get it. And that's amazing. And of course, every sitcom, I Dream of Jeannie, Beverly Hills Billy, he was on the Honeymooners, you name it, through the 60s. He did Bye Bye Birdie, the film, and 11 other movies. But he was basically known for his nasal, funny voice, his funny expressions on his face, and from the Hollywood Squares game show, which he agreed made him a household name. He was big in Bye Bye Birdie, but that really launched his career forever. Yeah. And myself found him to be the most funniest, unique comedian I had ever seen. And he was much older than me, but I liked him where I had a crush on him. And I started to write to him in the studios. And I'd once in a while get a picture back. Thank you. And I just said, I have to meet him before I graduate high school. Now, my teachers are like, you're not going to meet Paul Lynde. He's a famous star. He's an icon on television, the 70s, every show. But I was doing research on him in a library. Research really can show you things. And I found a book actually, that said Paul Lynde's business manager's phone number. And I called it. And it ended up being Paul Lynde's home. He answers the phone. Can't believe a fan found his home number. And I right away said how much I admired him. And then I just blurted out, will you go to the senior prom with me? And he's like, no, I don't even know you. And then I said, I know you come to New York. Now, he's in California. I'm in Long Island, where I still live. Yep. And he finally agrees to meet me when I said, I'll have my father take me. It's the only way he would meet me in New York. Sure. We go to New York, and the hotel where we're supposed to meet him is on fire. I didn't think I'm going to get to meet him. And then, of course, in the book, I detail all this. But we do meet, and we have to leave the hotel because it's on fire. We go to the Sherry Netherlands. My dad's with me. We sit down, and what was supposed to be, because he kept his word. He said, I'll meet you after much convincing. I'm shortening the story, of course, for 5 minutes, an autograph, a picture, goodbye. That's it. I'll do that for you, but that's it with your dad. And, of course, with the hotel on fire, We took a walk to the Sherry, spent over 2 hours together, talking about his life, his career, myself, and we connected. And it was a nice relationship.
How old were you, Cathy?
I was 17.
That's all you got to be.
17. And I was very sincere with him. You know, he kept asking me, what do you want? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be an author. Never knowing I would ever write about him. Just never knew that at the time. And he said to my dad, you know, what does she want from me? You know, he was very cautious because back then you're rich, you're famous. What do you want? Are you here to make a story? Who knows what you're doing? And my dad said, no, she's just a fan. She just is loyal. And by the time he left, Paul gave me his home address and had me come to his house. And we had a friendship till he died in 1982 at the young age of 55. Can't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things come to mind. One, it's amazing who's on the other end of the phone sometimes when you pick it up. And obviously, you know, we're talking that far back.
Yeah, there's no caller ID. There's nothing. You're just going to pick it up and say hello.
Exactly. But also, you know, even these days, we were talking a little bit offline. It's amazing the people that will give you the time of day if you reach out to them. You know, if you don't, you can say, well, you know, he must be stuck up, or why? Because he didn't call you, you know. But I mean, I can tell you from doing this show for 6 months or so, I haven't had anybody tell me to go fly a kite. I've had a couple people who haven't responded, and that's fine. But, you know, it has been amazing to me, you know, the people that do reach back out, because, you know, someone that may be quote unquote a star, you know what? They still put their pants on one leg at a time. And, you know, they might be a star to us, but I guarantee you their best friend from high school doesn't think they're a star, you know. And deep down, you know, we're all people. Some of us are busier than others. Some of us may seem to have a more glamorous pastime. But, you know, it's amazing what you find when you look for it.
You know, you talk about that. Here I was many years later after Paul had passed, and I decided I wanted to share my story of how I met Paul, because we had a lot of adventures together. He was so popular. And I said, okay, I have to make this not just about Paul and I, which is a very nice story. It's a fairy tale come true. And I do get all my readers saying they like that the best. And then, of course, I have his whole life story in there. So to do that, like you said, I have to reach out to stars. Now, we just lost Cloris Leachman yesterday, sadly. She, busy as she was, gave me the time. Kay Ballard gave me the time of an interview. Peter Marshall, wonderful host of the Hollywood Squares. He also did Broadway. He had a great background. He gave me not only the time, but a nice forward for my book. Les Roberts, who was the producer of Hollywood Squares. Everybody was so gracious. Cheetah Rivera, the stars, Casey and the Sunshine Band, everybody. There was only one person who turned me down. He just didn't like Paul Lynde, and he was polite about it, but he says, I will pass. Everybody else came forward. They told good stories, bad stories, wonderful stories, funny stories, honest. And that's what made the book work, because I have to do research, but you don't know if you're going to reach. Or I got lucky with Paul Lynde. Lucky, or that was just the way I believe God aligned the stars for us to meet, because I really wanted to meet him. And I always think now, looking back, I was meant to meet him, not just to have a friendship with him, but maybe so I would one day write a book about him, keep his legend going, and let people know there's another side of Paul Lynde. I mean, Paul Lynde had a reputation of getting a lot of DWIs, being very nasty, getting thrown out of places, thrown in jail, but he also had a wonderful side. And of course, news, as we all know, likes to write the things that are going to grab most people's attention, which is the negative things. We
Well,
all
let's be on. Let's be honest. Who the hell wants to turn on the evening news at 6 o'clock and say, Sally came home from work and was absolutely shocked to see a flower bed planted next to her mailbox. Let's go out to her. Yeah,
right.
I pulled in and there were these petunias everywhere. I couldn't believe it. We're not going to watch that for very long,
No,
right?
We're not. But we do
Now,
like good stories too. So that's why I balanced it. It's a fairy tale, which a lot of people want to meet their stars, and this shows you that things do happen, and it also shows you a real life person behind the stage, behind the camera, and that's what was the whole point of my book.
well, as much as things get whitewashed and people would like them maybe to be, I mean, ultimately, I think we know, we like I'm going to use the word hero, even though it might not be correct. We like our heroes to have flaws, right? I mean, I just finished watching Tiger Woods documentary on HBO, and I'm pretty familiar with Tiger's story, but it was just, to be reminded of this guy who literally had the world by the ass.
Mm-hmm.
And, not once or twice, but found himself at the bottom looking up at everyone. So I do think that, those types of flaws make people more human. I may be generalizing.
We can relate to them, and we can realize, okay, they may be heroes to us, but they also, some of them are very lonely. Paul's kind of a lonely guy, and maybe meeting me was a new friend for him at that point in his life. I don't know how, though, because he was at the top of his game. But, like you said, take Tiger Woods. He had the world. Maybe it got too much for him. Who knows his reasons? But he's going back to the top again, I believe. So,
I hope so. I mean, he's my age, so it gives me hope.
There you go.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you had talked about, Paul did have, run-ins with the law or whatever, flaws he may have had there with beverages or substances, which really seems to be so common among actors, and I'll even paint with a broad brush and just say creative people who rely upon that for their livelihood. It's very common. Why do you think that is? I don't even know that if you're a psychologist, and frankly, I don't care, Cathy.
Well,
you know enough people. Why do you think that is? That either creative or
I think there's several reasons. I'll just throw out my own. I listened to rock stars. I went back to listen to some old great rock bands from years ago, and one of the leaders was talking to an interviewer and said, we wrote that music so high. When we went on stage, we were so high. I think sometimes the drugs of choice that they took made them maybe less inhibited and more creative and gave them something. And I also, in Paul's case, he had a lot of anxiety, and that's self-medication. Alcohol will calm you down.
Yeah,
but if you take too much, then you get depressed, and so whatever people find, their potions that make it work, but sometimes it becomes their demons too.
Yeah, I think that that was very well said. I'm reminded of a couple Hemingway quotes. One of the things he said was, "Happiness in intelligent people is the rarest thing I know," which I think is pretty poignant. And the other was, "Write drunk, edit sober." And there might be something to that, where if you have a couple cocktails or whatever substance it is, you're probably less concerned about quality than you are. You know what? I'm going to type until my fingers are done. And then tomorrow I'll go through and see if there's anything good here. And inevitably, and Christ, I'm telling you this, you wrote a book. Obviously, the first process is getting everything from up here in the computer, right?
Yeah, and then putting it in order. That was another challenge.
Right. And then figuring out, hey, do I just think this is good because I made up these words in this order, or is it actually good? But it seems to me that process can't happen in your head. You know, you really need to look at the written word.
Express it the way you saw it, or vision it, or know it. That's the key. So let other people see through your eyes, and it doesn't have to be your whole opinion, but it's your eyes of how you see something, and then you put it together. And the readers, of course, they see it their way.
Right, because I think we all think, at least, that we've got a couple bestsellers bouncing around up here. You know,
we've got a story.
Absolutely, but extracting it is, you know, and then distilling it is the real hard work. So why don't you talk about that hard work? You said, you know, you wanted to be an author for as long as you can remember, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, I still have my diaries at 10 years old. And I have, when I met Paul, I still have my journals from high school, every day of my life in details. I like to write. You also have to like writing. That, of course, that's part of it. You have to be good with details. And then with Paul Lynde, every conversation we had, anything he did, what he wore, I wrote every detail down, from, you know, the necklace he was wearing to the color shirt to the, so, you know, years later, I just had to look at my diary for those days with the details were already there. Yes, I could remember a lot of them, but there's nothing like fresh when you wrote it and you write the details. And then the research, that took everything took about 3 years to put the whole thing together, between the interviews and research and making the chapters, doing the, you know, the chapters in order, so people have
formatting.
an idea.
I mean,
people can follow it.
How long did you think it was going to take you?
I figured I think it'd be a year and a half tops. It was a lot more. Yeah, that's what I figured. Oh, I have my story. I know it. No, I have to research and then interview and then make sure my facts are right and go back and interview his family, which was wonderful. They were the first ones, I believe, to this day, whoever gave an interview about Paul and his relatives, which was really touching. And that was one of my first interviews, and that got me rolling. And, you know, once you start something, it should roll. And I also love doing it. I got up every morning, 8:30 on my computer, writing till 6 o'clock at night. That was what I did Monday to Friday, like a day job. I made sure that's what I was doing until it was done.
And you have to. I mean, you know, if you're doing something but not treating it as a job, it's real easy to blow it off. And I would argue that it shows in the quality of the work, how seriously you take it.
I think you have to, and I'll underline that 1,000 times. You have to have a passion for what you're writing about. I woke up, I couldn't wait to start working on this. I loved the research. I loved the interviews. It was exciting. It was new people I was speaking to, famous people with wonderful stories. Also got me to know Paul Lynde, who was my friend anyway, but you have a different friendship with different people. So I got to learn that and learn more about him and his career and his co-workers, co-stars, just his family, his childhood. You think you know it, and then you start writing the book. And with anything you're writing, and this is anything, you got to have a passion about your subject. If you don't have a passion, I don't think it's going to be as exciting for people to read it. That's the whole point. Have a passion about something and write about it, or something that really interests you, but with a passion.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting. An interesting point that I would say is almost universally true, that even someone that you're friends with, and you can say, up in my head, I can draw 98% of this picture. And then you talk to their friends and you get a completely different view. And sometimes even a view that's at odds with your view of your friend.
Oh, absolutely.
Can
absolutely. You work with somebody, they're great at work, and then you find out later on they go home and they're screaming at everybody and yelling at everybody like, okay, that they don't do that in the office. Well, that's, they're letting out their days or whatever. And the same with, I think in psychology, years ago, it's just coming to me now that I took the Joshua window is how we see things, which is different than other people. So you might see yourself as one way and other people will be like, no, that's not how you are. Yeah. Because you think it that way. So that's always interesting. Something to work on too.
A goofy example, maybe. I'm 6'4". I haven't always been 6'4", but I've always been tall. If I stand up really quick right now, I'm not going to be afraid of heights. But if I see someone walk by that's like 6'4", I'm like, whoa, that dude is tall. And people look at me and be like, what are you talking about, dude? You're an inch taller. But it's funny, when we see others or when we see strangers, maybe with similarities with either ourselves or friends, we may see it as something completely different.
Absolutely.
Can you maybe tell me about, someone that you spoke with for the book you might tell me, no, Jamie, that didn't happen. But maybe, having a conversation where you may have had to say, hold on, are we talking about the same person here?
Let me think. Florence Henderson explained it well, I thought. She said, and she passed away too, sadly, but she's told me everyone, for example, on a Hollywood Squares where you have a lot of stars and they change and you have different ones coming each week. Florence Henderson said a lot of people thought Paul Lynde was not approachable. She said, but he was. She just knew that he'd be open if you're open to him. And then you have other people, and one of them was from the Squares as well, who told me, I'm not giving this interview. He couldn't stand him. He didn't think he was funny. He thought he was mean. So there's two different things.
Sure.
When I met Paul, I was very open to meet him. I saw no flaws about him. I didn't know him. I had him on a pedestal, but now I was getting to know the man, which in turn, as time went on, was even a more real love because I didn't know him. And then I got to know him. So,
yeah.
And then you have Cheetah Rivera, who told me how he was dancing on stage with her ex-husband, and Paul, the timing was wrong. It wasn't anybody's fault, but Paul didn't know it. And Paul started screaming. And I thought, oh, wow, was he that uptight back then? This was, I guess, 64, I think, the Broadway play Bye Bye Birdie came out. Mm-hmm. Hearing that. But I've also seen Paul years later. I didn't know him then. Backstage, once I was at a show with him, and he was doing summer stock. And I happened to go back, and I opened up the curtain, and Paul his knees were buckled, his body was tight, and he had two women holding his arms up. That's how his stage fright was so crippling. I watched him and I stood back and I was embarrassed, and I hoped he never saw me because I know he wouldn't want me to see him like that. Mm-hmm. And I never mentioned it. 2 seconds later, the curtains opened up. Paul goes on stage like you never knew. Everybody starts clapping and laughing even before he speaks. And I said, wow, I didn't know he was that uptight. So people don't know these things. And just like with Cheetah Rivera, who really, really, said wonderful things about Paul, but she also told me, his flaws about screaming at people. He was a perfectionist, but he didn't always handle it politely. So like you said, you see different things. And that's one of the things I learned. I went, wow, he was really that tough to work with at times, but not all the time. Some people loved working with him. Depends on who his mood, what's happening in his life.
Yeah. And a lot of times, I would say, again, creative work like acting or things like that, you may just see the manifestation of the behavior and say, wow, this guy's an asshole. When no, he is so nervous and wants everything to be so perfectly right that that's how he thinks he ensures it, by yelling at the stagehand, that goddamn curtain better be up tonight before I walk out. Last night I walked into the goddamn, things like that someone may look and say, this guy's an asshole. Who does he think he is?
There's a lot of people said, what the heck? What is he doing? He's not treating people right. I think it was his insecurity too. Yeah. If it's not looking perfect, he's not going to look perfect. And he was very insecure about what he was doing for a long time.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing too. I'm not going to put myself in anybody's category, but I am a bit of an actor. I've done some small films, local stuff. And when you're immortalized in film or anything like that, you might as well have it perfect. It'd be like you, Cathy, saying, all right, my book is ready to go. I'm going to read it one more. Oh, shit, I spelled the title wrong. Whatever. No, you're not going to do that because it's in its final stage. And you want to do everything that you can to make it perfect, even though it never will be.
Exactly true. Yes.
So I know we've only got a couple minutes left, Cathy, but I wanted to talk about something you hit on right at the top. And that is the resurgence of, both whether it's Paul's career or the shows that he worked on. And I just wanted to ask you, what is it about these older sitcoms and things that are finding relevance again? Do you think it says more about today's audience or yesterday's product?
I think it's, now they're not all wholesome shows. There's some funny lines that really, even Paul Lynde's lines back then, I don't know if people were offended or just weren't ready for it. But it's a lot of talent back then. Some of them had that canned laughter, but most didn't. They were live audiences. They were genuine. Look at I Love Lucy, another wonderful. I could watch that again and again. The Honeymooners, I could watch again and again. Any of those shows. But back then, I think the stories were good. They weren't as corny. And there's great shows on today. My God, Schitt's Creek is my new favorite.
I've heard that is very good.
That is, you got it. It's addicting. But that's like a classic great show. Back then, the lines weren't written to be funny, every single line. Paul Lynde, they kind of did that with, and then I think that's what killed it. They should have had more serious lines and then a couple of lines. But back then, I just seen it was more, not wholesome all the time, but more real as far as what's going on in people's lives. And the writers aren't trying to get the top Nielsen ratings because for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but all these shows, and it might be our generation too, my age, we want to go back and remember the great shows. Like my mother used to say, they don't make them like they used to. Now I'm saying they don't make them like them used to. So maybe it is the time of what you used to, what you're growing up. I can't answer that, but I think they're old gems. Well, All in the Family, come on, isn't that the best? All in the Family, another great show.
Like a lot of those old things. And I think part of it is today's culture and the immediate gratification. You'll see a show today and it's I can't watch sitcoms. I have a real hard time with it.
I'm not a big fan of a lot of sitcoms either.
Well, because I understand why they have to do it, but they telegraph the punchline so far in advance that I've got it.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like,
not that there's great writers today. I don't know the goal, but like you said, look, I'm on social media during the day. I do see things on YouTube, which is everybody, you go on, you're entertained all day.
Yeah.
Where years ago, you only turned on the TV to be entertained or listen to music on the radio. Now you can be entertained on YouTube, on Twitter.
Well, and
Facebook,
I
whatever
would
you
say
want.
that these days, a lot of writers, it seems to be going for that snippet that, oh my God, this 10 seconds is going to be perfect in the trailer for the commercial. And, because they want people to watch it. Once they watch it, I don't know that they give a shit that they watch it again, and, consequently, conversely, back in the day, people had 22 minutes for a half-hour show to watch with undivided attention without twittering all the way through it and reading a book and all of that. So I think that it didn't need to be as like, because you watch a sitcom or anything else today, if it doesn't grab you in the first minute and a half, my guess is you're not there 5 minutes in.
That makes sense to me. That's true. I think that's part of it. I think we're too entertained these days. So when you really are entertained, you're not even focused on it, because I have friends or family come over and we're watching a great movie and I'm so excited. And I'm not one to sit there with my phone, but other people are. And I'm like, did you hear that? Did you see that? Like, this is art we're watching. Pay attention to it, because someone took their time to make a great movie. And it's just like a conversation you're out to dinner with somebody. If they're looking at their phone, you feel, I'm sure I'm guilty of it now and then too. But we don't stay focused on one thing. Right now, hopefully people are watching this, but they're also checking their emails. They're checking their Facebook page. That's where we are today. And I don't know if that's going to stay that way.
I think it's going to get worse.
I'm afraid for that too. But,
I know live theater, same kind of thing. You imagine someone writing a 3-hour play today? Like, you can write it, fine, but who the hell is going to sit through it?
Yeah, exactly.
I love theater. I love live theater. One of the first things I will do is see how long a play is. Because, and it's not because I'm addicted to my phone or anything like that, but for me to see a 3-hour play, I know that it's basically a 4-hour window, but which again is fine, but I need to make sure that I have a whole afternoon, that I don't have anything else going on.
Exactly. And you don't want to miss anything because everybody's busy. But I think, in this world right now, I think there's a break on the busyness to a point, because we're living in very scary times with the pandemic. You're afraid to leave. Some people are afraid to leave their houses. You don't go anywhere. So what are you doing? Well, hopefully more families are playing board games and cards. And I know we're doing that here. Be more of a family. And maybe sometimes I think this is here to make people realize, hey, and we talk about shows. Well, people who grow up with texting are used to hearing words. They're not really hearing them through their phone. You don't know the person's feeling. You can tell they're sarcastic, maybe to a point, but I have to hear people's voices, especially if they're not with me. If my daughter's far away, call me. I want to hear your voice. Yes, texting is great. Always glad to hear from you. I got to hear your voice. Got to hear how you sound. Want to hear how you sound. And if everybody's texting, I've been at parties across the room. They're texting each other. Go over and talk to them. Why are you texting each other from across the room? That's like that.
It's amazing, because I didn't grow up with a cell phone. But I have a 13-year-old son, and it is just incredible to me that he is going to discover the world and see the world in a completely different way than I did.
Absolutely.
It's so,
there's pros and cons, but
absolutely.
There always are. And texting is great for a quick call. There's a lot of wonderful things for that. But I think people are missing the emotions. I think they're missing socializing. How do you socialize if you're socializing through texting words? No. How do you get to know people? That's how I feel. How do you really sit there? Well, hopefully you don't write too much personal stuff on there, but how do you get to know somebody? How do you get to know their heart and soul? You got to talk to them.
Yeah. I mean, when I started going to bars when I was, I don't know, 15 or 16 years old, there weren't cell phones. So guess what? You're going to talk to people at the
That's
bar.
right. That's right.
People you agree with, don't agree with. Um, Guess what? You're going to watch a fucking dart championship on TV, or you're going to get to know the people around you.
Yep.
And that may be one of the reasons we are where we are today in terms of a gridlocked or a divided society, because there are a good chunk of people that maybe have never had to have a conversation with someone that they disagree with. Where
it's easy to say your words on screen. Nobody can challenge you. I can tweet and say what I want. You can challenge me, but I don't have to listen to it. I don't have to respond.
Right.
And at the same time, it's too easy to hate these days. It's too easy. You can hate because you can tweet it. You can't call a friend on the phone and say, I'm really pissed off at you for this. Let me throw something from Facebook that makes you feel bad, or the bullying.
No, my brother blocked me on Facebook because
let me friend him.
He and I are still very, very close, very tight. He's in Annapolis. I'm up here, but we still talk. He's like, he didn't want someone questioning his bullshit on Facebook. That's fine. He also knew that I am not going to read something that I know is patently false without pointing it out.
Okay, so, there you go.
Yeah. So we agreed to disagree.
There you go. Or have a conversation on the phone instead of twitting and all that.
Well, it was funny. One day I texted him something being an asshole. He's like, if I wanted to have this conversation, I wouldn't have blocked you on Facebook. That's fair.
That's your brother. That's your brother.
Yeah.
But you're right. Social media has some great things, but there's also some not great things. And the more I'm seeing right now today, all of a sudden, if you want to say something, it can get pulled. I'm not talking when you're bullying somebody or doing something dangerous. That's different.
Right.
I'm talking about if you have a view, supposed to have freedom of speech, and now things are getting blocked, so it's scary. And I do agree, if there's anything dangerous or anybody can get hurt, of course, but now it's like, I don't know, got to make a whole new way for people to interact.
I had seen something the other day, that was basically attacking someone, saying, hey, a year ago this guy said this, and then yesterday he said this. What's up? And my response was pretty simple, and I'm not being an asshole. I said, I thought that being able to change your opinion when presented with new facts was a sign of critical thinking or maturity.
Yeah. Well, these days there are no true facts, in my opinion.
Right.
I can't find true facts. I can't find anything or I want to.
Yeah. And that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, would people prefer to watch me have a conversation with you talking about my blue shirt? And no, Jamie, that's not blue. Red. No, it is. It trust me. It's like, would people say, yeah, you know what, that Jamie, I like him because he sticks to his guns. He started that conversation saying he had a blue shirt, and till the end, he was sure he had a blue shirt. Okay, maybe I'm the wrong guy.
I could give you a picture and show it to you. You could still say, well, the facts are wrong. I did a fact check. Some people said I was wearing a blue shirt.
It's my shirt. How are you going to tell me what color my shirt is? Huh? Well, Cathy, thank you so much for your time. I know you've got to run here. We went over a little bit, but here is the link on Amazon to the book. I am going to finish it, Cathy. And when I finish the book that I'm working on, I will make sure that I get you a copy. All right.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you. I want everyone who reads the book, if you do want to read it, of course, it's Lynde A Biography, his life, his love, and his laughter. It's going across the screen. It's on Amazon right now. That's the only place. If you don't have a computer, I say this for anybody who doesn't. A lot of seniors don't, and they love Lynde. Barnes & Noble will order it for you. And then if anybody wants, give me a review on Amazon or say hello on my Facebook page, which is under the same name as the book. And Jamie, thank you for having me. It's fun, different conversation, very, very unique. I enjoyed your hosting it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cathy. Be safe, enjoy Long Island, and
Good luck with your book.
Keep in touch.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye. All right. That was Cathy Fitzgibbon Rudolph. And she wrote the book about Paul Lynde. We talked a little bit before. Really interesting. She met him when she was like 17. She thought she was calling his publicist, but he answered the phone, and she asked him to go to the prom with her. Hey, whatever works. So he told her, I will not go to the prom with you, but I will meet you for coffee if you bring your father. So that's a good move too. So thank you very much, everyone. We had kind of an abbreviated show today. We've got more stuff coming your way. Thank you all so much for liking the Facebook page and the YouTube page, sharing it. When people ask me, sweet man, I can't always watch it, but I think it's super cool. What you can do to help, even if you don't watch every show, when you see it show up on your feed, give it a thumbs up. Hit the share button. If you tune in for 3 seconds, I wouldn't be mad either. All of those things help. They help us to get more guests, better guests, and all of that stuff. So I hope everyone is staying safe and warm out there, and I will see you soon. Thank you. And once again, thanks